Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Radio Free Wall Street. Oh my God! As I was preparing for the show, in fact, I ran a little late because I wanted to see how many stories I could pin to this basic theme, and it's amazing. We've got a situation that I think you need to understand, and it's one that's not readily apparent. Let's point it out to you, and that is that we really have markets in turmoil. The dollar is hitting another round of highs against the world currencies. Gold and precious metal are collapsing. Oil is approaching cycle highs. Bonds are, and bills and treasury notes are doing a moonshot. And if you take these stories separately, it's like, well, okay, bond market's going higher. That's nice. The Fed's raising rates. That's okay. European markets are in turmoil, and we have record high value of the dollar against some key currencies like the peso out of Argentina and out of Venezuela, and the dollar's trading at multi-year highs against the Russian ruble, and all of a sudden, when you start looking around the world, you realize, holy shit, there is a lot of movement in markets indicating fear. And what's going on here? Well, let me give you a perspective on this thing. We've got a president that has started a trade war with the Chinese over their largest telecom company. Now he's backed out to the point of putting him out of business. Threatening millions of jobs. I mean, pretty big shit, right? He has got us going on a negotiation with Kim Jong Nunchucks over his weapons, and he is being subject to severe trade sanctions. We then go across there, and as we paddle across, we end up with Iran, and now that is becoming an aw shit because we are talking about trade wars, in essence, sanctions against us and other countries doing business with them. Now you go to Canada, where you've got record high lumber prices, and the Canadian dollar has been on balance falling against the dollar, and there's a trade war with the United States and Canada. And then if you go south a little bit, you go to Mexico, and the Mexican peso is falling at record lows against the dollar, and that's because the threat of trade war and factories not being allowed to locate in Mexico, and Mexican factory items not coming into America. Then you go a little bit further south, and you've got Venezuela, who we have sanctions against. And that is choking off their economy, which is in trouble. And then you've got Argentina, that has record lows against the dollar on their currency, and they are in the middle of trying to defend the currency. They've got interest rates soaring on the spot market, and things are spinning out of control there. Now you got the Brazil real that's falling against the dollar on question about what happens with agricultural trade with the United States and what happens with trade sanctions with the Chinese and a trade war that involves a lot of agricultural products. So as we go around the world, you've got to realize that, there is a lot of shit. You got the Brits that are pulling out of the European Union, and there's a lot of concern of what's going to happen with the financial community there. Now you've got the European Union that is up in arms, literally, against the United States, because the United States is saying, well, anybody that trades with Iran will be prohibited from doing business with the United States or the U.S. banking system. And that's creating a lot of concerns. So then we move the embassy to Jerusalem, which, by the way, was promised by every administration we had in the last 20 years. Donald Trump don't have the balls to do it, but that is causing a whole lot of shit to Gaza Strip, and the world's up in arms about the fighting that's going on there with Israel defending itself because the guy's challenging its border. Now, I want you to take this in perspective and realize that, holy shit, we also have sanctions against Russia, right? I mentioned the ruble falling against the dollar, and that was mandated by Congress. So the question is, what is going on here? America is in conflict with everybody. I mean, look at the map. I mean, we're fighting the world on trade and sanctions and all these evils, and we're going to stop Kim Jong Nunchucks with his nukes and we're going to stop the Iranians. And the question is, okay, how does this work out? Well, we've got the U.S. economy that is headed for a recession. You have U.S. government securities in the short end of the market that are at the highest level since the 2007 wipeout. And now all of a sudden you're looking around and you're going, wait a minute. Could this be overload? Could this be too much shit up in the air at one time? Could this be too much uncertainty? And the answer is hell yes. Investors are scared shit now to invest in Mexico. I can tell you that for a fact. Latin American investors going down to Central America are really concerned about the drug wars and the immigration policies and the instability that that's causing with the safety valve of immigration being removed. Okay, and they were talking about Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, and El Salvador. And that looking pretty ugly. Now as you go further south, where you've got Colombia that is being overrun by Venezuelans, and I mean overrun, fleeing the country for a better life because the whole damn place is up for grabs. And that is destabilizing their economy with these workers coming in there and a whole border issue that is being undulated that no one knows where this is going to go. Now as you go further south, you've got Chile and Argentina that is afraid about losing their agricultural market as the United States. By the way, the wine market, interesting enough for them, was the first thing that started hurting, and then what's happened is their access to U.S. credit markets are being questioned because, what? U.S. rates are going higher, and that means that the very high rates they offered at one time to attract U.S. investors is disappearing. Then you've got a dollar, which means their cost of the carry, because they pay those loans are dollar-based, cost them more just on the basis of the dollar going higher and their currency going lower. So these are pieces that are moving that are out of control, and these are pieces that businesses don't like. So whether you realize it or not, they're pulling their horns, okay? Oil companies are not sure where they stand with what's going to go on with Iranian oil. Remember the sanctions with Venezuela, and the oil companies there don't know where they're at in that situation. You have leadership with Donald Trump that's inconsistent. We still have more issues to talk about. Don't forget that we've got the tariffs on aluminum and steel, and basically U.S. companies don't know which tariffs are going to go in and which are not. And then as far as exporters in the United States, they're not sure what their issues are. We have now a slowdown, and this is something that's not making the news. We have a big slowdown of custom clearance in coming into the United States. The inspectors aren't sure what they're going to do with the steel issue, what they're going to do with the aluminum. We have a slowdown of our agricultural products going to China, including our fresh fruits and vegetables, which is a big market, and our meats. The Chinese are now called walk slow, and that is that the clearance papers get lost and you can't find them, and another inspection. And the truth is that very few numbers of your containers are expected, and that calculates the time frame. The more inspection that takes place, the longer it takes. And when you're dealing with perishables, the shit's going bad in the container, and all of a sudden, you got like I used to say in the seafood business, if the thing sits on the runway too long, you're turning $5 a pound Caribbean red snapper fillets into cat food. So these problems are being exacerbated the world over. And what you need to understand is it's all a question of leadership. Now, the one thing you have to understand with Donald Trump, and we're not even getting into the political stormy weather problems, we're just talking about his style of leadership, is he's ruling by twit, and he's very inconsistent. In other words, okay, am I allowed to bring in the steel and aluminum from China or not? Can I bring in coal rolled? Can I bring in aluminum ingots? What exactly is going to be affected by the trade? We don't know. Now, in Canada, we're understanding, okay, well, where are we at with milk exports and cheese into Canada? Where are we at with lumber imports? The builders are being affected by the highest lumber prices ever. And that is affecting their ability to build affordable houses when the squeeze is on prices. So, as you look around the world, you've got to understand that everything's up for grabs. Everything's being contested. Nobody knows where they stand or what the policy of the U.S. is going to be because Donald Trump doesn't know. Now, remember, this policy is not being decided by Congress. This is being decided by obscene powers in trade that Trump has, okay? And he can do it by decree. And the problem is that Donald Trump doesn't even know what his position is. A lot of times he's putting steel against countries that he doesn't even realize what the relationship is, what the reciprocal agreement is. And all of a sudden he's taking us down a road where nobody knows where they stand. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. Nobody knows what's next, okay? And this is having an extremely deleterious effect on global trade. Now, there's more. It's now spilling over to global finance. Now no one knows exactly where are we going with policy, okay? Donald Trump is telling the world and Cuddle that just wait a few more months and we're going to see massive, massive investment in the United States. We're going to see a massive increase in tax revenue. We are going to see a massive increase in high-paying jobs kicking off and corking off consumer spending again. The problem is it's not happening. And so businesses, and I know guys that work as economists for certain businesses, okay, and it's kind of a black art. And the problem they have is that they don't know what to report. In other words, we don't know what is going to be the budget policy. For example, Caterpillar stock was riding really high on these massive infrastructure programs. You remember that? $3 trillion. Well, what's happened is they've gone nowhere. There's no real pending legislation. The market priced in Donald Trump's proclamation. It didn't happen. Just as we came on the airtime, we're getting another proclamation out of the White House, and that is that Donald Trump is going to ask for full funding on the wall. Now, what the hell is that shit, okay? The Senate, the Trump will seek full funding soon for his wall, okay? And remember, you got a budget battle over that one. It's a huge number there, okay? And we also got the Senate that has now rolled back and reinstated Obama-era net neutrality rules. Okay, so now that is changing again the equation on the internet and how the providers provide services and what revenues they can get from what measures. Okay, so nothing is settled business. Everything's up for grabs. Now, don't get me wrong. As a businessman, you know that you don't have certainty, but at least there's a degree of knowing. In other words, do I invest in the factory that I've planned in Mexico, or will those cars that I make have a huge duty on them and not be able to get back to the United States? What is my situation with lumber and what are my prices going to be with lumber coming out of Canada? What will be embargoed? Iranian oil now is putting a lot of questions on a lot of people on what happens to those sanctions. Boeing has now had to modify its plans because it doesn't know if it's going to be able to honor, supply, and continue with its contract with the Iranians. It's a huge market. It's hugely underserved, and they got a bunch of flying death traps, which they're desperate to replace. So Airbus is going, well, okay, if Boeing's out of the game, are we in the game? And now Airbus's calculations, well, we're not sure what the European Union is going to do because there might be sanctions against the European Union if Airbus provides planes into Iran. Trump has talked about some exemptions, but no one's clear where they stand. So what you have got is a president who's creating pandemonium. Now, believe me, I understand shaking up the opponent of the deal, and I understand what this is all about, but the reality is that this is not a situation of a president that is negotiating. This is a situation of a president that isn't sure what his own policies are. Look at Yahoo. They've got a problem with the Postal Service, the United States government. They don't know if Donald Trump is going to force the post office to charge more for their package deal, okay? Everything's up in the air. Everybody's being attacked. AT&T, Time Warner, no one knows where that deal's going. You know, he's opposing it, but the lobbyists were there. And what's happening is, as we continue down the road here, people are waking up and going, wait a minute. I'm not investing money because I don't know where I stand. Can I do business with Iran or not? What's the situation with the European Union? Is there going to be a trade war with them? Am I going to walk right in the middle of sanctions? What about Mexico? The NAFTA agreement was supposed to be settled business. It's not. We don't even know what it looks like. Canada's in the same situation. So what's happening is this global uncertainty is playing out with the dollar's getting very strong because our interest rates are so high. It's being played out with another Latin America crisis, including Mexico, I might add, that is facing elections. We got Venezuela elections with the the dictator-elect there. And what is the situation for trade in Venezuela going to be? Can we trade or not? If the dictator-elect is out of office, can we go there and do oil deals or not? If he's thrown out of office, how soon before we can do deals? What's the situation with Russia? Can we supply parts in oil field services? One of the biggest fracking markets in the world that is underserved is Russia. And U.S. fracking companies are drooling at the opportunity to go there and frack huge shale deposits. Huge. Remember, Russia has the largest land mass of any country on Earth. And they don't even know what's under a lot of that land. And the huge shale deposits are proven to hold huge reserves. But how do you get in there to do it? And now you understand the problem. No one knows where they stand. Now, the Federal Reserve is signaling absolutely positively it's raising rates. Our next rate of 1/4 point will be in June. That is changing flows of capital. Why, if I'm going to go and get this higher bond prices on a 5-year, why am I risking the market? If a 5-year is going to 5%, why am I chasing a 6% scary foreign market bond that may not be paying me in a currency risk besides? So now you've got a situation where everything's in an uproar. Nobody knows where they stand. And the other thing is that nothing's negotiated to conclusion. In other words, Obamacare, it's still up in the air. The border wall, it's another budget buster and funding battle he's trying to get through once again. He's got a hard-on for it, right? He wants that goddamn wall. He doesn't give a shit what it costs. Doesn't give a shit what it does to the budget. I want my wall. I'm president. I want my wall. I want my wall. If I don't get my wall, I'm taking my toys. I'm going home. Okay, now you've got the NAFTA agreement where, well, do I have a content rule coming up? How are we measuring that content? Final assembly? Or are we going to break down each component apart? Where are we at with Canada? What can we export? What can we import? What about Europe? Remember, we've got a trade war blooming with them. And then China. Holy shit, is China going to allow imports of U.S. beef, pork, poultry products? Are we allowed to bring grains in there? So, no one knows. No one knows. There is no settled business in this administration on any issue. I can tell you what I do know. We're headed for a recession. I can tell you what I do know. Interest rates are going to go higher and higher. I tell you what I do know. The stock market is going to wipe out. And we're headed for a major recession that I think someone's going to be calling a depression. And if it keeps up like this, everyone. So we have a maximum uncertainty and unsettled business. Donald Trump gets before the twit machine, and he twits off another war he's starting, another person he's pissing off, another sanction, another failure of policy. And the problem is that we don't have any diplomats. In other words, the State Department's been gutted. So if someone wants to give concessions to us, there's no senior officials to really talk to. There is no one, in the pilot house. And there is nothing in control, nothing settled. Donald Trump's own people really don't know what his policy is. And it's scaring them. And it's scaring the markets. And investors are rapidly saying, you know what? I think we ought to just wait a couple of years, let this shit settle itself out. Let's go ahead and buy these really nice yielding, safe, secure treasuries. And when the dust settles, give me a phone call. Maybe I'll consider getting back in the game. And that is what's happening. People really, really, really don't know what's going on. And Donald Trump doesn't know what's going on. I have the conclusion that I don't really think that he has thought through his positions. In other words, what exactly is he willing to give Kim nunchucks? How is he going to do it? What's going to be verified? What is his position on Iran? What does Iran have to do to satisfy him? Who will negotiate these agreements? Okay, hardliners that think the solution is to bomb Iran. What about the trade wars with Europe, with China, with Latin America, with Mexico, with Canada? I mean, they all have trade deals, and no one knows where we stand. Because if Donald Trump decides that your shoe factory should be in America, then you're going to wake up one day with high duties against your shoes from Latin America. No one knows where they stand. No one knows what this guy's going to do next. No one understands what the ramifications are of anything he wants to do. Okay, so now we're moving into a situation where these bills that are trying to get passed, they have a long odds of getting passed. You know, this whole situation with the Obama-era net neutrality rules, I mean, that's going to be a battle. But if you're in the middle of negotiating and they do come through, well, the value of properties are changing. Some properties become far more valuable. Some become far less. And how do you know? How do you know what he's going to wake up one day and do that funny-ass, silly-ass signature on? You know, display the camera. Look, how mess I made, Mommy. Looks like a kid with crayons, right? So what's happening is people just don't know what's going on. No one understands what's going to be next with him. No one understands exactly what's going to happen. Are we going to be in a... okay, I'll give you a good example. Kim Jong-nunchucks. I am of the firm opinion he's not going to give up his nukes, and there's not going to be anything verifiable there. What does Donald Trump do now? He says he'll be really hard and really mean. Does he attack? That means, do I invest in South Korea? Do I buy products from South Korean factories that are right at the border, like LG, that may not even be there? No one knows where they stand. No one knows what's going to happen with Mexico. What exactly is the policy going to be? Are we going to really, really, really get trade wars with them? Are we really putting this content battle in? Are we really, really, truly going to embargo, add extra duties? And if they do, how does this affect my business? Why am I going to put a factory in there now? Why am I going to expand my factory? It's time to put, full speed stop, because we don't know what we're going to face. We don't know what the next situation is. Is there going to be an oil embargo with Iran? Is there going to be $100 barrel oil? $100 barrel oil changes the equation of gasoline in the energy market, right? Corks off inflation on the consumer level in the United States. Consumer spending gets nipped in the bud. No one knows. No one who's a thinking person that's rational, when you call your lobby and say, okay, what is going on? Well, give me another 100,000, I'll let you know. We're going to have to, talk about this thing. So the thing is that no one knows here's the problem. With Donald Trump, no one knows what comes out of the negotiation. And worse yet, no one knows what comes out of the negotiation, if it sticks or it changes, okay? I mean, the drug companies, okay? The drug companies made a little sweet deal. I mean, Donald Trump was going to force competitiveness in the drug companies. They were going to cut the middlemen out. Remember all that? And they walked away with, you guys are going to try real hard to lower prices. They're laughing. So no one knows where they stand. In other words, what is going to be the U.S. policy on drugs and how prices are negotiated? What is the situation going to be with trading tariffs? Is China going to be a trade manipulator, and are they going to get for a tit-for-tat trade war? Am I Mr. Farmer Greenjeans? Do I plant? How much do I plant this year? Do I get stuck with crops that has no market? No one knows. No one is able to anticipate what Donald Trump's going to do. Whatever he says means nothing. So the problem is that you're getting into a global recession. Global business is slowing down already. Nothing to do with Donald Trump. Just 10 years of stimulation is over. And now he's trying to stimulate on the top of the stimulation. And he's trying to encourage businesses to invest without having any legislation that said you're going to cut back $3 trillion and invest it. There was no talking about, in order to get the tax benefit of bringing back that money tax-free, how you spend it. No one knows. No one knows. And let me tell you what happens when no one knows. The markets wipe out. In other words, as markets become more uncertain, investment dries up. As the cash flow, or I call the bid, is pulled out of the market, prices go down. Look at the uncertainty you're seeing in the markets every day right now, okay? No one knows what the market's going to do. I mean, no one on a daily basis is able to stick their finger in the air and figure out what's going on. No one knows what Nunchucks is going to do, what Trump's going to do. So now we're moving into a situation where we have an investigation. Okay, Mueller's not going to indict him. But as an investor, if Donald Trump is facing massive losses in the elections and the Democrats come in and start impeachment, that is a game changer. Now you've got the next president you've got to anticipate, and he's not going to have anywhere near of a majority. Now, are we frozen? What is going to happen with legislation? Where do we stand? So you've got the maximum uncertainty. I've never seen like it, okay? You've got uncertainty the world over. People are shocked at what Donald Trump did in Iran from a standpoint of the Europeans. They don't understand it. They don't understand why there's no negotiation. They don't understand why he's doing this. And the reality is that these kind of things end very, very badly. Because listen to me carefully. Donald Trump has no cohesive plan. He does not understand what his end game is. What exactly am I trying to get out of this negotiation? And the answer is, I want a headline. I want no collusion, no collusion, no collusion. I want Mueller to stand down. I want this to go away. And I want to rule by edict. I want to do what I want to do, and I don't want anyone to stop me. I don't want any accountability. I don't have to think through what the next plan is. So this is more about the art of a publicity stunt. This is more about a TV producer who's producing another episode of the trade wars, another episode of the wall, another episode of Chinese sanctions, another episode of Iran, the bad deal we're going to revoke, another example of the production of the Kim Jong Nunchucks episode. If you think about it, it's episode TV. But no one's thinking about, well, where is Donald Trump on Catalonia and the separarization there? Where is Donald Trump on the Canadian trade wars? What does he really want? Where does Donald Trump stand on the immigration issues? I mean, DACA, for example, okay? 1 minute's for it, 1 minute's against it. Everywhere you go, there are people with massive uncertainty who have got some aspect of Donald Trump up their ass in his life, and there's no clarity. Okay, is DACA kids going to be allowed to stay, or am I going back to Guatemala? No one knows. And uncertainty, that means people make bad decisions, they make no decisions. Uncertainty stops investment. Uncertainty affects currency valuations, market valuations you're seeing. It affects cash flows the world over. And it moves profits and losses in unseen directions. And that's the last thing a businessman wants. In other words, I don't give a shit. If it's sanctions, fine. Tell me what they are. Let me know what my battleground is. What exactly do I have to deal with? It's this uncertainty that can't be planned for. It's the uncertainty that means I'm going to put factories in America. Well, okay. Are there going to be sanctions against... Okay, let's take the steel companies. Remember? Donald Trump with great fanfare had New Corn, all those guys up there and waving their hard hats around. They had nice new uniforms. I noticed that. Look really good. I like that gray color, against a green background. So what happened was, what? Oh, am I paying $1,500 to employee? Am I getting $1,500 bonus? Well, only the sanctions go in. Well, did the sanctions go in or didn't they? Are we putting a second shift on there? Are we hiring more people? Are we giving bonuses and pay raises or not? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's all up in the air. And the other thing is nobody's talking about it. See, the problem is that if you say something, then you piss off Donald Trump. You want to piss off the Don? I mean, he's got some ugly Russians that are indirectly on the payroll there, okay? So it could be really nasty for you. So no one knows where they stand. And if you talk to businessmen in Latin America, if you're talking to Europeans, if you're talking to Americans, the one thing that permeates everything they do is, I don't know what policy is. I have no continuum. I have no understanding of what the rules of the road are going to be. And as that happens, things get, you got Rudy Giuliani. 1 minute, Kim Jong Nunchucks in negotiation. The next minute he says he's walking out because of American military exercises, okay? You saw the holy shit mess, with sanctions getting put on and the Iranian situation. Nobody's where they stand there. And, he's done it with the Japanese. He's done it with the Koreans. It's like he needed Europeans to go along with him for the negotiation with nunchucks. The Europeans are pissed off at him. He needed the Europeans to go with him for negotiations with the Iranians. No one knows where they stand. They're all pissed off. No one knows where to go with Donald Trump. Remember trying to get back into the Trans-Pacific Partnership when it was about to get ratified, but which it hasn't. It was like, oh, maybe I should have gone in that. And they go, no, we're not negotiating a deal. Thank you very much. Okay, the biggest trade alliance in the world was given to Russia and to China to be kings in. Is that smart? So we basically let Russia move into Syria. Middle East is up for grabs. We move the embassy in the middle of these other things. And again, we have no consensus. We have no support. America is not big enough and bad enough to go it alone, no matter what you may think, okay? We may be a superpower, but that's different from being the only power. And many people are making that mistake here. So you can expect more fear. You can expect interest rates to go higher. You can expect the stock market to continue to crash. You can expect the U.S. economy to go into recession as we enter a global one. And you can expect Donald Trump to do the dumbest shitting thing at the worst possible time, making the worst possible decision, screwing everyone over, and no one knowing where they stand.